I took a little longer, and I was now given some questions that are coming here. I have from Sunita. It would be so exciting to receive a recommendation for a mantra. Mantra is a sound that is used in transcendental meditation because this is a technique, how to dive. Of course, the mind will dive guided by its own nature to go towards the self, to know oneself. But on the way to diving, there has to be something that the mind sits on or uses, and that is a sound that has no meaning, and it's given personally to the individual with in a specific way based on the tradition, and therefore you can have it through a personal teacher if you contact the sites that teach transcendental meditation like tm.org and look for a teacher in your area. They will be very happy to give you this instruction and follow you up carefully. Why witnessing thoughts in mindfulness doesn't allow us to transcend? Or can it happen? This is from Tina Deshelita. Tina, this is a very good question. It's because when you're on the surface of the ocean, you are getting interested by specific values and specific ideas, specific feelings, attention on specific outer values. Even though it's a thought, it's a specific value. That's why we said in the Ashtanga Yoga, they divide it into two. Like Bahiranga is the external yoga, and Antaranga is the internal. So the external yoga, putting attention on outer values, can be a preparation for helping the mind ultimately to transcend. And it's possible that by chance the mind can slip when one is, let's say, focusing a lot. At one point the mind gives up and lets go and finds an inner path and goes inside and then transcend. Transcend means to go beyond thoughts. So if you're staying on outer thoughts, you cannot transcend. You have to go within. And that is a technique of how to go within and how to transcend that is systematic and organized, and that is why we feel it's really a way that is scientific, because it's reliable, it has been proven, it's repeatable, and it can be done not waiting and hoping that it will happen based on situation and circumstances. Sarah Varham is asking, how do I know if I'm doing my TM practice right? The simple answer to this, if you find it easy and you are not trying and focusing and forcing anything, then you are doing it correctly. And if you experience these inner depths, your mind is settling, you are going towards the transcendent, you have experiences that are deep and inner. If your physiology is rested, or if you feel outside of meditation that you are acting and behaving in a way that is fulfilling and you are not as much exposed to stress, you're more resilient to things, and you are able actually to focus and think more clearly, then it means your meditation is doing the correct job. Susan James is asking, how is focusing on your mantra different from focusing on your breath? Actually, in transcendental meditation, you don't focus on the mantra at all. There is no forcing. And these are things that you learn. This is why you need 3 days of checking after learning the meditation, the initiation. So you get an initiation where you get your mantra and how to use it. And then you are followed for 3 days as individually, and you are told what to do under this circumstance and under these circumstances. And actually focusing and forcing and trying in transcendental meditation is prohibited. And it's actually going towards the inner value. The mantra is a sound without a meaning, so we don't associate it with anything specific. And also the mantra is not keeping the mind on something superficial or on the surface. The breathing is a physical activity in the breath and keeps the mind on that activity. So it does help to relax, it can be effective, but it is not for transcending. Gloria Ines is asking, does TM come from a religion? TM is not a religion. You know, the Veda is a knowledge, means knowledge, and there has been all kinds of interpretation of what it means, and what it does, and people have used it as a philosophy, as poetry, as techniques, and even, you know, Hinduism has been inspired by some aspects of the Veda, but Veda itself is a science. It's a science of being, a science of reality, a science of mind and consciousness, how to develop consciousness and how to reach these higher states. And then one can live one's religion in the fullest possible way, because when one is clear from stresses and strains, one can understand the inner spiritual values more, and one can understand and live one's religion and one's relation to one's God, to the divine, in a more complete and more profound way. There are some questions coming also. John Castro is asking, I stopped having thoughts. Am I still removing stress? I don't know, John, if you're practicing transcendental meditation, but in transcendental meditation, thoughts are actually part of meditation. So we do not fight thoughts. We do not try to stop thoughts. And this state of transcendence is not a contrived thing. We don't try to make a mood out of it. And particularly, of course, during activity, but also certainly during meditation. You know, there has been an understanding of this insight, or this sati, which is mindfulness, or satori, or vipassana, which is having an insight, to have an insight. And people have misunderstood this as being something that you have to do during waking. So you have to keep remembering the self. So you, even while you're speaking, then you go back to the self, you know. And so some people have been even taking it to almost a ridiculous level, where they would speak very slowly and between each word try to remember the self. And so they say, I hungry, and between I and hungry, they feel I, that's mean me, so I have to think of myself, and then yeah, who is hungry? It's me who is hungry. Yeah, I realize it's me that is hungry, therefore I can say that I'm hungry, and like that. And this is really lacks spontaneity. So mindfulness is very important to be mindful, but there is a limit, you know, of manipulating the mind. There are things we don't want to be mindful of, you know. We don't. When you are doing a job, when you are, you know, flying a plane, let's say, you don't want to be mindful of your breathing all the time, or, you know, of what you're feeling when you are sitting, you know, because when you're sitting, actually, the body cuts off many of the inputs. Otherwise, it's impossible. We have millions of inputs that come to us through body feeling. But the body cuts them off so that the brain can function and can be spontaneous and do things in the right way. And so mindfulness is a practice that you do, and then one has to be absolutely spontaneous and easy and outward going, and not to be also hyper mindful, because that can be dangerous. It reminds me of a story I wanted to say, and now maybe is the occasion. In 1972, there was a flight by Eastern Airlines, Flight 401, that was going from New York to Miami. It had 163 people on board, including crew and people, and it was end of December. They're going to end of year, celebrating the new year. And then they almost arrived, they wanted to land, and so the pilots put down the gear which means the wheels on which, of course, the plane has to land, and they were retracted, and they put them down. And there are, you know, 3 indicators: the back wheels, back gear, and the front gear. And usually the pilots have to check it out, and they check out that the back gears had dropped, but the front gear, the light didn't come. So they were afraid that maybe the plane will crash because as they land, there is no gear, there is no wheel on which to land in the front because the light didn't come. So they asked to go around, and the control tower said, yeah, go around, of course, and fix it. So the pilot was somebody who had more than 29,000 hours of experience, so it's not like somebody who doesn't know what he was doing. And there was an engineer, so they sent the engineer down to look through a hole to see if the gear is down or not. And they said they were so busy with this light, which turned out actually to be just a burnt bulb. Not that, you know, everything was okay, but the bulb was burnt. But they were so busy and hyper-concentrating on this bulb that they actually forgot to fly the plane properly. And unfortunately, it's a very sad story. The plane ended up crashing and killing almost all those who are on board. A few were saved. And that was because they were hyper-mindful and hyper-alert and hyper-concentrating on one aspect, and they forget field independence, which means fly the plane. And, you know, stop being too much focused on one thing. So we have a nervous system that when it's fully developed, it can have a broad comprehension, which we call field independence, and this has been proven to happen with transcendental meditation. At the same time, the ability to focus on specific things. So in our life, we have to be careful also not to be hyper-focusing on something and crash the plane of our life because of one thing happened. You know, some friend told you something, or something happened in your relation to somebody, and then you are stressing on this and hyper-focusing on it, and you forget all the beautiful things and the spontaneity and fullness of life, and then you crash your life in a way because of something very specific. So we have to have that openness of the ocean. Let the ocean be unbounded. And what good news about this ocean is that when you are at the depths of this full ocean, it's actually the same depths of every ocean of everybody. It's not just your ocean, but everybody's ocean. So that is why in yoga it is called the state of union, where one is unified with everything and everybody. The state which, you know, in physics we can say is what they call the unified field of all the laws of nature. So it's, you know, it's important to have also spontaneity, simplicity, easiness, and enjoy life in its fullness. And these techniques, they help. Of course, our experience is transcendental meditation gives that profundity and depth that actually will help you to be more mindful also, you know, and in that sense, it is a mindfulness technique, but a spontaneous mindfulness technique. And other techniques are very good. They are part of the different traditions and yoga, but they have their own level of results, of course, also. So I have Alina Graham and asking, does the mantra assist in creating new neural pathways? It must have. It's not really the mantra actually that does it. The mantra is vehicle, is kind of an instrument that is used, and it's the transcending that helps. So the mantra is helping for transcending, and as we dive deeper in transcendental meditation, yes, we do have greater openness between different parts of the brain and the use of more of the reserves of the brain. Arbdas Bardas is asking, good thoughts or bad thoughts or mantra thoughts don't bring enlightenment. Yes, thoughts themselves don't bring enlightenment as such, but in transcendental meditation, the way they come and the reason why they come is clearly explained by the teachers, and they are actually the expression of stress release. This has, if you take the course, then you will understand that. So you're right, just thinking about things and focusing on things and analyzing things on the surface is a slow way of improving. But of course, one has to think, one has to make decisions, and the right decisions, the right things that we do, feelings that we have that are good, that are positive, all of this helps. All of this helps. So mindfulness techniques and the different teachings of different traditions, of different people, different sages, are all very good at all different levels. It's just that transcending is bringing a platform, a background on action and thinking and knowing, which allows every thought, every behavior, every activity to be fulfilling and most creative and in the right direction. Andy Benares, why do I feel restless during meditation? Andy, I don't know what meditation do you practice, but the mind is busy always. Mind's nature is to search for more. We can say it's like a honeybee seeking the honey or seeking the nectar in the flower. And so the bee is buzzing, buzzing, buzzing all around. Why is it restless? Because it's searching, it's searching, it's searching. Now you can take it and force it, the bee, and put it somewhere. Maybe what it'll do, it will sting you, but it won't want to be rested. It will stop when it finds the nectar, when it finds something. So what is attractive is what makes the mind settle down. So if you are practicing techniques of concentration and like that, you will find that the mind will be restless, If you practice transcendental meditation, you will find that the mind takes inward direction. And if at some times it is restless, the teacher will tell you how to deal with it and how to practice properly, and you will find that soon it will settle down. We've had many experiences of people who, practice some other techniques of concentration and forcing the mind and focusing, and they say that they close the eyes and then, they think they've been there for a long time, and then they open the eyes and they feel 2-3 minutes have passed. And then when they've learned transcendental meditation, there are many examples like this, they sit and they close the eyes and they feel not so much time has passed, and they look at the watch and they find 20 minutes have passed. And that is because it's so soothing, it's so attractive to the mind, that the mind settles and is there because it's attracted by its own nature to want this state of peace and happiness and restfulness inside. I think we have covered the time, has been long. It's great to have been with everyone, and look forward to being with you again for other topics. All the best. Have a great summer.